What's up, guys? We are back with another Super 7 Ultimate Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles review, taking a look at a beefy figure. This guy is massive. We're taking a look at BEBOP today. So we got Shredder in this wave, we got the Foot Soldier in wave 1, so we're getting a bit of an expansion on the Foot Clan right now with one of Shredder's goons. We have got one of two really big figures here, so of course BEBOP and Rocksteady being the other one. And this guy is literally huge. It is a massive figure. Very heavy. So we've got him here in the standard packaging for the line, purple slipcover with the BEBOP inspired manhole cover with his face on it. Turtles logo on the back, of course. You can pop this guy off and you've got your figure there in that window, and I mean, he absolutely fills this packaging. He's humongous, so we are definitely going to need to do some size comparisons on this guy. He weighs so much, I really can't stress how big this thing is. So you've got him there in the window, you've got that blue and purple sort of brick motif with the Turtles logo down at the bottom, windows on both sides, and then you've got that graffiti artwork and a bio for our powerhouse punk enforcer of the Foot Clan. That is a mouthful, but yeah, let's do it. Let's pull him out and take a look. And here he is out of the package, the greatest in punk rock pig figures. We've got our BEBOP, and well, this guy is kind of something else because he is so massive. And I know Super 7 has told us time and again that this is going to be a big, monstrous figure, but this thing is huge. It's not only just a big figure, it's also incredibly heavy for an action figure anyway. It's a very heavy piece, and you'll know which one is which even without taking the slip covers off the box. You'll know just based on the weight. There is just so much going on with this guy. Like the rest of this wave, he has been provided for review by Super 7, so we're going to jump right in, as usual, and take a look at Articulation. He is kind of what you might expect him to be based on some of the other figures in the line, but there are a couple little oddities and I guess surprises really when it comes to how they built this guy and put him together. So as far as moving him around, we do have a pretty wild head. So he goes super far up, he goes down, you can tilt side to side and then full rotation. His head, of course, kind of sticks forward, so his rotation is, you know, that weird kind of rotation, but you can get great range of motion. It's this massive ball peg in there, and there's just a ton of movement possibilities here. Very expressive when it comes to moving that head. You've got your arms that go out at the shoulders. They, of course, rotate. You do have to worry about the shoulder pads, but he goes, I mean, as far back as you likely need. You've got your single-jointed rotating elbow, and then we've got our hinges and rotation at the wrist, so pretty normal stuff there. We do have our waist twist, and that's all he has. He just has a waist twist. This is something that I would love to maybe see changed a little bit and go Mythic Legion style, just to have a ball peg down there, just to be able to crook him forward or backward or tilt side to side a little bit. But at the same time, he's already kind of hunched forward, so it's not the biggest thing, although I'd love to see that maybe be a potential area of improvement when they kind of get to that with this line. So he's got full rotation, and that's really it. There is no crunch. He's got a swiveling tail poking out of his butt there. You've got your legs that go almost all the way out, super far for such a big figure. They kick all the way forward. They do kick backwards slightly. This one is a little bit loose to me, not super loose, and it hasn't posed any issues when, well, posing, but it's worth mentioning. We do have rotation at the thigh, and then the knees. The knees are pretty interesting because of, well, his design. He has a leg brace. For however many people do or don't remember him having this brace, he's always had one on the vintage toy. So for his right leg, your left, he kicks backward 90 degrees with a twist. With the left leg, your right, he kicks backward about 90 degrees without a twist because of how this brace is done. So he can't move his leg because of the fact that the brace is there. However, there is ankle rotation hidden underneath the fringes of his pants, so you can actually rotate down here as well, which basically negates the problem that's created by this. So they were able to kind of sneak that in a little bit. We do have our hinges at the ankles, and there's pretty good range of motion there. And then you've got rocker, which works surprisingly well for such a, well, fat ankle, for, you know, lack of a better phrase. So this guy is he's pretty fantastic, honestly. I've had so much fun posing him and just playing with him, moving him around. Right at this point, I would say, just based on play factor and posability for such a massive figure, this is going to be the star of the wave. They really did a good job with how he is constructed. Now, when it comes to aesthetics, this guy is not just an impressively large figure. He is also a very, very well decoed figure at that. So this is a prime example of Super 7 and the Horseman taking all of the weird little details that you may miss on the vintage figure and actually bringing them to life, so to speak. So you've got things all over him that, again, you may not have ever noticed. I think the big one is probably the brace on the leg, because in many ways it just sort of bleeds into the vintage figure because it's not painted. And here it is painted. So it's got kind of, a very silver metal look. There's brown for kind of like the leather straps. You've got all the stitching all over his pants. That's not painted on the vintage figure, but it's painted here. Things like the skulls and the feet, as far as the bones that hang off the turtle shell armor that he has, that's also stuff that's not painted. Those were just part of his arm on the vintage figure, not to mention all of the buttons and things like that on his jacket. There is a wash in the frayed edges on the jacket. You've got stuff like the embroidered foot emblem on the back. It wasn't painted in the vintage figure, but it's painted here. It's got a wash to bring out all of that detail. And then, of course, things like the tail even, it's articulated here. It sticks out from the figure where it was just a part of his butt, really, on that vintage one. So there's a lot of nuance to this figure when it comes to some of the detail. I will say that one thing that is probably going to stand out to some folks, and I'm sure it's something that people are going to mention, there is a shine to his skin when it comes to the plastic on his arms and his chest. Frankly, it's not bothering me too much, and to be fair, he is currently bathed in tremendously bright light in my review space here. So in a normal room, in your collection room, he's probably not going to be as shiny, but it is worth mentioning the plastic is a little glossy on this guy for the arms and the chest at least. Again, it doesn't really bother me too much because it's basically how the vintage figure looked too, so it's not that big a deal for me. He does have, though, just a tremendous, tremendous presence. I mean, even all the detail down here on his shoes. So you've got all these little paint details as far as like the emblems here. The laces are painted. The, what are these called? I don't know what those little holes are called for the laces to go through. There's a word for it, and I can't remember it right now. But you've got like dirt and grime all over the side of his shoes. And then even on the bottom here, there's like wash to make them look dirty. So there is a lot of extra detail. Frankly, there seems like there was a lot of attention paid to this figure, more so than I really expected. Not to say that there isn't a lot of attention paid in general with this line, but there's just so much stuff to pick up on. So many little things on the vintage figure that are brought to your attention on this guy. And I think he looks fantastic. I mean, he has a tremendous shelf presence. A lot of that is because he is simply massive, but he looks fantastic. And then, of course, he does have a tremendous noggin up here, and the vintage figure has a really large head for the size of that figure. And I think this head, I mean, it's just tremendous. There are definitely going to be some folks that are going to ask, well, why in the world is he pink? That's the way he was in the vintage line, and that's the way he is here. We do have an extra head we can talk about, but as far as my shelf goes, my display, this is the way he's going to stay. This is the way he looks. It's the way I expected him to look, and I think they did a pretty good job. I do think they maybe toned down the pink a little bit from some of those early promo shots. He looked super, super pink, but this is, I don't know, it's still really pink, but it's not as hot pink. And then you've got this huge mohawk with the shock of hair, nice pink color again. You've got silver in his shades there, and then the big monstrous nose ring just looks fantastic. It really pops against that head sculpt, and when you get the light to shine in those shades, he just looks so cool. I mean, that's really what it comes down to for me. This figure looks so cool. I really cannot stop playing with this one because it's everything I wanted it to be. This is again, and I say this maybe too much, this is the figure I thought I had as a kid made real now. It's something else when you get it in hand. Now, as far as size comparisons go, we're going to, of course, stack him up with figures from this line and then from other lines. And I'll talk about NECA's BEBOP after this when we compare other BEBOPs. So we've got some turtles here. So we've got Leo and Raph. And, I mean, just look at this. They are absolutely dwarfed by this figure. BEBOP is humongous. I've said it 50 times already. He is a massive figure. He's a heavy figure. And I think this is the best way to illustrate that because you're going to have him going up against your turtles for sure. And I mean, this is not the goofy dingus kind of BEBOP from the cartoon. This is one that will absolutely thrash your turtles because he is so big. I'm very, very happy with this. And honestly, it just gets me even more excited for what Rocksteady's going to look like because he's going to be, roughly just as big. Here he is with a foot soldier. you know, and the foot soldiers are pretty tall to begin with, so he's still got a lot of size on that. Let's do something else. Here's a Power Rangers figure, so a Lightning Collection. So with normal 6-inch figures, I mean, he's just towers over them. Of course, he's much bigger than the foot soldier as well. Let's do a NECA Turtle. Here's a NECA Toon Turtle. So here's NECA Toon Raph from Wave 1. And this is the same thing as the Super 7 Turtles, but even to a greater degree because these guys are even smaller. And you can see that he absolutely just towers over those. How about something else NECA related that I have not reviewed yet, but I cannot put down currently? So here he is with the latest and greatest from NECA. Here's Toka from the Toka and Razar 2-pack, and he's even bigger than him. Of course, Toka is much deeper because he's got that crazy shell, but this is a massive figure, and again, it illustrates just how big BEBOP is here. Another larger figure that might be a good idea of how big he is there is with NECA King Kong. So he's pretty comparable to NECA's King Kong, and this is a big, beefy, tall figure, so that's another good example of just how tall this guy is. And then I don't know, lastly, let's do a couple more normal figures, a couple more normal 6-inch style figures just for scale comparisons between more widespread lines. So here he is with a Marvel Legend. So the Venomized Cap. Let's move Toka away and let's do a Black Series. So that means a Mando lately. So we'll do the capeless regular Mando there, and you can see that he just towers over both of them. So this is a humongous figure. There is no other way to describe it. You are getting a huge amount of plastic in this box. Of course, the comparisons that truly matter most are BEBOP to BEBOP comparisons, and I figure the best ones to go for are of course, the vintage figure. So this is another one of my very well-loved vintage figures, and the NECA Toon BEBOP. And I'm going to say that there's probably going to be some surprises when it comes to how big this figure is, because this is a large BEBOP figure. This guy absolutely dwarfs him, though. When you get them side to side, it's crazy how different they are. It's not a knock on one or the other. It's just, this is a massive figure, and this is a really good way to show it. When it comes to comparing these two, I mean, you can pretty much see that they are very, very close. The only real difference is that Super 7 has gone kind of much more detailed when it comes to some of the accents. So the pauldrons are much more detailed as far as the armor pieces go, those crazy turtle shell bone pauldrons. The jacket has more details, the stitching has more details, the brace on his leg has more details, the shoes have more details. And then, of course, I mean, there's really not much to compare to these two because they couldn't look much more different. They, of course, are the same character, but they are very, very far removed when it comes to overall design. So I am so very happy that we have this guy. I still love this NECA BEBOP. I'm really happy with the Toon version. He looks fantastic. He looks like he jumped right out of the screen, but this guy looks like he jumped right out of my childhood and was remade today, which is exactly what I want out of this line. It's this figure made new and just made better. For accessories, BEBOP is pretty well stacked. He has basically everything that I would think he needs as far as this type of figure goes. He also has one extra thing that I'm frankly not really sure it was truly needed. I don't think I'm ever going to use it. I'm always happy for the inclusion when it comes to extra stuff, but he does come with an extra head sculpt, and this is just the head without the pink. So it's the same head sculpt, just with no pink paint applications on it. And I just don't know that it was really necessary, because I feel like it's only here to appease people who were upset that they included the pink head to begin with, like he shouldn't have had it almost, because I know when this figure went up, a lot of people were curious why he was so pink. Why does he have a pink head? He's BEBOP. He's not supposed to be pink. Well, he was always pink. You just forgot that he was pink, and I'm really happy that they gave us this head sculpt because, I mean, it frankly looks fantastic. So this one, I'm not sure you really need it, but if you absolutely don't want this one, you do have the option to swap it out. So while I'm probably never going to use it, you do have the option if you need to make yours less vintage accurate, I suppose. We do get an extra set of hands, so you got gripping hands on him in the box, and we've got fists as well. I will say that one thing that's worth noting is that these hands are definitely tough. They are very, very hard. You are likely going to need to heat them up. I had to heat them up, and I'm still probably going to need to heat them up again before I finish this video out, just to get the accessories in, because it's just a really tight grip and they don't want to move too much. So word to the wise. As far as weaponry though, we do have his drill gun. So we got this little guy here, so it's black and kind of gray with some silver accents on it. Looks really good again. He holds it just fine because he has a death grip, but you're going to have to heat him up to get that in there. And we've got his knife, which is the same color scheme, so black and kind of an off gray black, and then you've got a sort of almost gunmetal metallic color for the blade. And then we've got the trash can lid shield here, which is again kind of in a metallic-y gunmetal color with some silver accents for the rivets on the lid. So very vintage style stuff. And then we of course have his sprue with all three of those accessories in a kind of, you know, dark gray color plastic. So a lot of good stuff here. All of the hallmark accessories when it comes to vintage Bebop stuff. And then he has the extra head if you need to swap it out. So yeah, there's a really good chance that this is my new favorite figure in this line right now. I am so happy with essentially everything they've done here, and it gives me such hope that figures like Bebop are also going to be this big, this hulking, this mobile, this detailed, and come with everything that they need. This is a humongous figure by comparison to the Turtles, and yet you're still getting a bunch of accessories, and he's not any more expensive. I am so happy with the way he turned out. I cannot wait to get Rocksteady and have him and Rocksteady and Shredder and all my foot soldiers next to each other. I mean, it's going to make for one hell of a display. But this is, again, everything that I thought the vintage figure was, just ratcheted up a number of levels, made real in a modern, huge line. And I love everything about this. It makes Bebop seem so much more imposing than what we normally think of when it comes to the cartoon and things like that, because this is an imposing, menacing looking figure, and he is going to look fantastic alongside your Turtles. So that's going to do it for this look at the Super 7 Ultimates Bebop. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.